Who rules East Europe commands the heartland. Who rules the heartland commands the world island. Who rules the world island commands the world. In these words, Halford Mackinder, a famous British geopolitician, described the importance of the area located in the eastern part of North European plain, the belt between the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. In the beginning of the 20th century, Polish lawmakers, having regained their independence, sought to remake their space as the Intermarium, a massive land power united to ensure dignity to Central Eastern Europe, amidst the resurgence of Germany and Russia. I'm your host Hubert and welcome to Caspian Report. Please be my guest and feel free to visit my channel, Good Times, Bad Times. The links will be provided below. The idea of building a strong, independent political system for centuries has been a common thought of the Baltic Black Sea Bridge rulers. The communicative coherence of the river network of the area, combined with the common interest in protecting against foreign invasions from the continental east, as well as Germanic influence coming from the west, favored the formation of a unitary authority in this area. The beginnings of the concept are connected with the Jagiellonian dynasty, initiated by Władysław Jagiełło, the Duke of Lithuania. Jagiełło, marrying Jadwiga, daughter of Louis I, King of Hungary, was in 1386 appointed King of Poland by virtue of iure uxoris, by right of wife. The king was baptized and thus Christianized Lithuania, consolidating the lands of Poland and Lithuania and maintaining good relations with the Kingdom of Hungary. The Polish-Lithuanian Union, signed in Krewo a year before Jagiełło's wedding, was established due to the rapid development of a common opponent in the region, the Teutonic Order, which had occupied Polish lands. The Teutonic Knights did not recognize the Christianization of Lithuania and continued to conduct crusades in its territory. The Union fulfilled its purpose by winning the 2-year war against the Order, which was sealed by the victory in the Battle of Grunwald in 1410. It was one of the greatest battles of medieval Europe, as up to 70,000 armed men took part in it. The Teutonic Order did not lose its land as a result of the war, but over the next century it began to lose strength. This resulted from the constantly deteriorating economic situation, which was caused by the trade blockade imposed by Poland and Lithuania. In the years 1519-1521, the order fought another defeat with the Polish-Lithuanian Union, and finally in 1525 it became a perpetual vassal of the Kingdom of Poland. These 150 years strengthened the relationship between Poland and Lithuania, which in 1569, under the Union of Lublin, led to the establishment of the Commonwealth, a united state of Poland and Lithuania. The Commonwealth at its summit covered almost 1 million square kilometers and, excluding the Holy Roman Empire, was the largest country on the continent. At that time, the Commonwealth fully or partially covered the current territory of Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Moldova, and Russia. The country did not have an equal opponent in the east at the time. However, the devastating wars of the 17th century, together with the inefficient apparatus of power, ultimately brought about a downfall. The Commonwealth, unlike most other countries in Europe, was characterized by a large decentralization of power. 8 to 10% of the population was nobility, whose strong position, combined with the limited powers of the monarch, meant that the part of the noble class began to put self-interest over state interest. The nobles were not free from the influence of neighboring countries, which bribed individual noblemen and lobbied for decisions that favored their national interest. The ensuing century witnessed the extraordinary growth of regionalized power and corruption at local courts. Ultimately, this situation led to the 3 partitions made by Russia, Prussia, and Austria, and the fall of the Commonwealth in 1795. Poland and Lithuania disappeared from the map for 123 years. Their identities existed only in memory and language. In the meantime, Poles made attempts to regain independence, trying to take advantage of the geopolitical situation on the continent. The 2 largest uprisings for independence at the time were the November Uprising in 1830 and the January uprising in 1863, both against the Russian Empire, both unsuccessful. However, after the November uprising, the mobilization of Polish emigrants intensified. The movement was led by Prince Adam Czartoryski, a so-called king without a crown. The prince had really strong ties with the Russian Empire in the past. He was even the Minister of Foreign Affairs to the Russian Tsar Alexander I in the early years of the 19th century. Yet when the November uprising began, Czartoryski became the president of the provisional government, therefore received a death sentence from Tsar Nicholas I of Russia. While in exile, Czartoryski strongly lobbied for the Polish cause in the Western powers, mainly France and England, as well as in the Ottoman Empire. His plan was to recreate the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which would be a part of a confederation or an alliance with other Central European nations, namely the Czechs, Slovaks, Hungarians, Romanians, Serbs, and others. The idea was to create a bloc of states, mainly Slavic, which could balance Germanic states in the west and the Russian Empire in the east. The idea collapsed because of a lack of support in the west. However, even if Poland returned to the map, the coalition's chances were slim due to territorial disputes between Hungary, Romania, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia. As a result of the end of World War I, many nations in Central Europe regained their independence, including Poland, Lithuania, Czechoslovakia, Latvia, and Estonia. The fatigue of war in European powers, combined with the new geopolitical arrangement, again gave rise to the hope of creating a force in the region that could resist the empires in the east and west. Józef Klemens Piłsudski, who was the key figure of the newly formed Second Polish Republic, shared that desire. The Polish chief of state and later field marshal led the Polish army in the victorious war against Bolshevik Russia in 1920, sealed by the victory in the Battle of Warsaw, also known as the Miracle on the Vistula. The Piłsudski's idea was in nature identical to the plan of Czartoryski, and later it began to be known under the name of Intermarium, in Polish Międzymorze, which means between the seas. After the conflict with Russia, Piłsudski knew that the only way to dismiss the threat from German and Russian expansionism was to create a bloc of countries capable of balancing Germany and Russia. Międzymorze in this form was to be a federation of Lithuania, Ukraine, and Poland, so basically the formation of the Polish-Lithuanian-Ukrainian Commonwealth, even at the expense of giving away part of the Polish territory to Lithuania and Ukraine, though Poland would remain the de facto senior partner in that relationship. Piłsudski wanted to weaken Russia by dividing Soviets by national stitches. The concept wasn't about national Poland, but the Great Eastern Empire, embracing the lands of Poland, Ukraine, Lithuania, and Belarus, and empire from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, dividing Germans and Russians, an empire based on historical foundations. Piłsudski was aware that 4 separate nations were formed in the historical lands of the Commonwealth, each of which has its own state aspirations. However, without creating a sufficiently high geopolitical potential, none of them has a chance of maintaining independence for good. Piłsudski, bringing the Jagiellonian idea back to life, also noticed its negative effects: the domination of the Polish nation over the others. He believed that the recipe for avoiding such a situation was real federalism and pluralistic democracy. Yet, this plan fell for 2 reasons. The first was the distrust of political leaders in Lithuania and Ukraine regarding Polish intentions. They were afraid that Polish hegemony in the system would threaten their newly regained independence. The second was Poland's internal reason. The National Democrats, Polish nationalist ideology political movement united around Roman Dmowski, were a strong opposition to the Polish Socialist Party from which Piłsudski originated. They opted for a mono-ethnic country as they saw no chance to form an efficient government with Lithuanians or Ruthenians. The signing of the Treaty of Riga in 1921 between Poland, Soviet Ukraine and Soviet Russia, which marked out the Polish-Russian border, led to the final abandonment of the federal idea. In 20 years' time, this lack of consolidation of geopolitical power was about to bring the greatest tragedy to the nations of the Baltic Black Sea bloc. The dream of the federal concept of Międzymorze once again returned in 1931 thanks to the book by Stefan Gruszkowski, Imperium Jagiellonicum, The Think About the East European Union. The idea that found interest in the governmental sphere was to create a federation of states from Finland in the north to Greece in the south. Józef Beck, then the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, proposed a coalition of Central European states called Third Europe, which would geopolitically balance the Western forces, England and France, fascist countries, Italy and the Third Reich, and the USSR. Poland, Hungary and Romania would be the core of the alliance, and in the next step, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland and even Italy would join the federation. However, this concept had no basis for turning into real power. Italy remained on the German side, Romanians and Hungarians remained in dispute over Transylvania, and literally no one was going to accept Poland's leading role. Shortly afterward, World War II broke out, again destroying any plans to rebuild major power in this region of Europe. Steeped in deep indoctrination over the next 44 years, Polish elites, in accordance with Moscow's will, abandoned the idea of Intermarium. However, the elites in exile did not. Jerzy Giedroyć, who was in France, together with Juliusz Mieroszewski in the journal Kultura, based in Paris, cultivated independent thoughts and developed the concept of a sovereign Polish state in which they strongly believed. Giedroyć once said, "There can be no free Poland without free Lithuania, Belarus and Ukraine." The Giedroyć-Mieroszewski doctrine was based on the reconstruction of good relations with the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. In this idea, Poland would have to renounce all imperial ambitions and controversial territorial claims, and also accept the post-war shape of states, thus accept the loss of cities important for Poles, Vilnius and Lviv. The doctrine supported the independence of Belarus and Ukraine, and in its essence was not Russia's enemy. Giedroyć and Mieroszewski called on Poland and Russia to abandon their ambitions to control eastern territories, in this context mainly Ukraine, Lithuania and Belarus. Hence the other name of the concept, ULB doctrine, from the first letters of these countries. It was a breakthrough change in position in relation to the widespread opinion of Polish emigrants from the 1950s and 1960s, who did not want to give up their pursuit of Polish domination in the eastern areas of the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Jerzy Giedroyć, unlike Mieroszewski, who died in 1976, lived to see Poland's independence in 1989, and their doctrine was the closest to the strategy implemented by the Polish government in the East after 1989. Poland supported libertarian tendencies, among others, in Ukraine and Russian Chechnya. However, when allegedly after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the authorities of the newly formed Belarus offered Poland a customs and economic union with Minsk, Warsaw refused. Due to the economic power, Poland looked almost exclusively to the West at the time. This resulted in joining the European Union, NATO, and joining the West European supply chain controlled by the Germans and joining the American military protective umbrella. This brought stability to the Polish state, which was unknown in these areas for almost 250 years. Prosperity and geopolitical stagnation caused by American hegemony, however, resulted in the abandonment of geopolitical thought, which Międzymorze was a key concept. In the East, Poles pursued the interest of the West in the first place, the EU and the US, and their own only in the second. This led to an almost complete blurring of relations with Belarus, next to Ukraine, the most important country in the ULB doctrine. Along with the increase in system tensions in the world, Poland as well other Central Eastern European countries must re-examine its position in the region. The Jagiellonian idea of an alliance similar to the Commonwealth gradually began to return to the agenda under various names, of which the Free Seas project has been developing the most recently. The grassroots geopolitical thought in Poland calls for a fresh look to the East, but the limited potential of Poland with the economic power of Germany and the military strength of Russia makes the idea of Intermarium very difficult to implement without an external patron. There is only one candidate for this title, the USA. American doctrine in the European theater assumes counteracting the potential consolidation of Germany and Russia, hence the sanctions in the Nord Stream 2 project. As the tensions with China rise, the Americans will be forced to reduce their presence in Europe and shift resources towards Asia. A strong bloc of Central and Eastern European countries is therefore aligned with the interest of the US. The first symptom is the desire to supply energy resources to Ukraine and Belarus through terminals in Poland and Lithuania, announced by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Americans are already supplying liquefied gas to Poland. However, in order to realistically increase the chances of this project, a wave of US investment in the region, preferential armament supplies, and diplomatic support are needed. Without it, the chances of creating an independent power in this region are very low and the project is likely to fail, as it was the case with other Intermarium initiatives of the Polish elites in the 19th and 20th centuries. I've been your host Hubert from CaspianReport. If you look for some alternative analysis of international events, please join me on my channel Good Times Bad Times. The links will be provided below. Thank you for watching and pozdrawiam.